Well, welcome to Tech. We're going to make a library file for your Arduino today. So we got this original file right here. It's 50 lines long, and it's a mess. There's a lot we can clean up in here. So we're going to clean it up. And at the end, it's going to look like this. Well, we can do this, thank goodness, for a library file. So this is going to be an easy example. And then I'm going to do a more complex example that includes classes later on. But for right now, we're going to work with what we got right here. We're drawing a lot from the themes from the last video that we made. That was the if-then statements. And we're going to keep the same circuit setup because it was so good last time. Now, when we're talking about library files, there's two different types of files that we need to worry about. This is your header file. Now this shows up as a .h, and this is primarily for function declaration, class definitions, type definitions, constraints, and I'm sure there's more in there. And then you have your source code file, otherwise known as your .cpp file, and this is where all of your source code for this is going to lie. All right, let's do a quick setup. Now, I've already walked you through this setup. I'm going to just go ahead and copy and paste most of this stuff in there. And like magic, there it is. Now we have red, yellow, and blue buttons. We have our red LED, yellow LED, and blue LED. I assign those to those pins that are shown on the screen. And then finally, we have to set these up with our pin mode. All right, in our void loop setup, we're going to go ahead and call out our red state, our yellow state, and our blue state. Now what we're going to do here is when I press the red button, you're going to get the red light on. When I press the yellow button, you're going to get the red and yellow light button on. And then when I press the blue button, we're going to go ahead and turn on all three of the LEDs. Now, if you press any two buttons simultaneously, it's going to stop everything and not display any LEDs at all. So let's go ahead and get this first if statement in here. So here we have, if the red state is true and the yellow and blue state are false, you're going to turn on the red LED. Now we can go ahead and just copy and paste this right here and then do a else if. Let's put this red state to false and then yellow state to true. And then let's go ahead and turn the yellow LED to true. All right. Now that's got our first else if. And now let's add our second one. So we'll put the yellow state to false, and then finally the blue state to true. And then all these will need to be set to true. And then last but not least, we're going to have our else statement. So here, what we're going to say is else, you're going to turn everything off. So here it is. Else now I'm assuming you guys are already watched the other video. I'll leave a link in the description of the video and tag it right here if you want to watch that and have a full explanation on what an if else if statement looks like inside of Arduino. All right, so finally, we're going to take all these three and we're going to plug it in here. And we're going to set all these to false. So late at night, I don't know if I spelled false right. All right, I'm going to start labeling code. So it's always a good idea to label your code. So that way, when somebody else looks at it, they know what they're talking about. So you can do 2 backspaces right here. And what you're going to do is you're going to leave a note for the next person that might look at this code. So right here, I am looking. So I'm looking if only red state is red button. So right here, we're just turning on red LED only. All right, so this gets, and this lets you know, or the next person know, what's going on with this code. I try and write my code pretty simple so that way layman's can read it. But I should work on documenting this better because this is the first video that I've actually gone through and typed everything up like I should. Let's go ahead and check it. Let's make sure we're on the right COM port. We're on the Arduino Uno. Oh, right. We're actually set up correctly. All right. It says it's done updating. Now let's go ahead and go to the second camera and to see what our beautiful controller is doing. All right, there it is. Now, what we're expecting is when I press the red button, only the red one comes on. When I press the yellow button, red and yellow comes on. And then finally, when I press the blue one, all three of them should come on. Now, if I press any other button at that same time, it doesn't work. That's what we're expecting. So, all right, we got one win. Next, what we're going to, actually, let's turn this off. All right, next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all this out of a function, right? So this is going to separate it all outside of this void loop function. And inside of the void loop, you're only going to call this specific function. So like, if you're sitting here and calling digital right, red LED comma true, if you look at all the actual code that goes beyond that, it's probably a good line of codes right there. And so we're going to simplify this. And so that way, when somebody else wants to use it, they pull it in and they're good to go. So I'm going to copy and paste all that code above down below. First, we're going to call out void. Let's say update LED. Now we're going to call out our variables. Int, you're going to have red button. So with what I'm calling these here out is what it's got to match in the code. And so I'm just going to use all the nomenclature that we used above, just so that way when I move everything down, it's going to match exactly what we already writ. So let's see. Now let's call out the LEDs. All right, now we're going to take this whole entire code. We're going to copy it and we're going to drop it straight in there. Now we can get rid of all this. Now we're going to have our void loop statement. So in order for us to actually call this function, the only thing we have to do is call this update LED and assign it those variables. So the red button int, that is just going to be this red button. Now, luckily, we kept all the names consistent, so this just makes it easier copy and paste. Now, if you're uploading a library, you're probably not going to use the same exact language or nomenclature, but here we just got a little lucky because it's our library. We do what we want. Now we have your yellow LED, and then finally your blue LED. All right, this is the moment of truth. So we compiled all of that code into this one line statement right here, and then we have this void statement right here. Now, let's compile. All right, it done what we thought it was going to do. Now let's go ahead and upload the sketch to see if we're golden. All right, red button, yellow, blue, any other combination, nothing. So it does what we want it to do. Great success. All right, we can go home for the day. All right, first we're going to create a new tab. Now it's going to ask for a name. Let's go ahead and call it LED controller.h. All right, in our .h file, we're going to want to define some stuff. So #if in define #define, and then finally you're going to do a end if. So this goes into every single header file. Why is that a different color? Oh well. So we're going to call this LED controller _h. So we're just naming our library here. So if define and both of these should be the same. And then finally, we have to actually include the Arduino library. So here, we call out the Arduino.h. So whenever you pull something in from that Arduino library, you have to call it if you're calling it in your library. And I left this on. So what do we put in here? We put in our function. So here we go. Here's our void update LED. And then we finally have to finish it like that. That's your H. So it gets a lot more complicated when you do something else. Like when we go ahead and go up to classes, there's going to be a bunch of stuff in here. But this is a simple and easy example. Once it'll get harder, just wait. Now we're going to add a new tab, and we're going to call it LED control.cpp. So we took the same name and just named it the other one. So here we're going to go ahead and include this LED controller.h file. Now we're going to use these quotations for this one, but once we actually upload this into the Arduino library, it's going to change. What do we do with this? This is simply taking this whole entire expression and dropping it in there. Like I said, I made this example way too easy. Now, how do we use this? So let's go to our sketch. We're going to go ahead and add this. And we're going to include this LED controller.h file. So I believe we have everything there. So let's get rid of all this. So that way it blows it up if it doesn't work. So let's compile. And let's upload. All right, let's test it out. Red, yellow, blue, any other combination, it doesn't work. Awesome. So this is all is working. So this is what we are expecting it to do. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to change this to these. Forgot what they was called, but because we're going to put this in our actual library file for the Arduino. Actually, yeah, file save as, and we're going to call this LED red, blue, green. We'll save that. So all this should be saved. Now let's go ahead and open up our library file. All right, show sketch folder. So when we go to there, it's going to have our C++ and our header file, as well as this LED blue yellow example that we just made. So I'm going to head and call this LED controller. I'm going to, inside here, create a new folder, and we're going to name this example. We'll copy this, drop it in the example, and then take these two, copy, and then drop it in there. So now we're going to export this to a zip file. Now we have our zip file. All right. Now let's go to File. Now we have to import our library into the Arduino setup. So they used to have it to where you just drop it in folders and call it good. But now they have an actual tool that goes around and drops into the correct folders for you. So that way you don't break links and don't mess everything up. So let's go to Add Zip Library. We're going to go ahead and go inside of our... I need to just put this on my desktop. So here we go. And then hit open. Library installed. Now this is the final test. Let's pop up the second camera. Let's upload. So if every... Oh... All right. I don't know why I did that, but now I can upload and let's see if it works. Red, yellow, blue. There you go. Okay, so there's another Arduino tutorial where we made a simple library. I enjoyed it. I hope you're glad that you stopped in. You gotta subscribe, hit the like button, follow me on Twitter, do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. But I appreciate that you're here and have a wonderful day.